Alright everybody, this is the 1995 Honda PC800 or Pacific Coast. We're going to do a little startup and ride around, and I'll talk about the bike a bit. First things first, this bike is super reliable and mechanically pretty bulletproof. Starts right up, purrs like a happy kitten. So this is a 800cc V-twin engine. This bike has plenty of power, plenty of torque. It's considered a sport touring bike. Definitely more on the touring side than the sport side. It's not going to win any races, but it is comfy as all get out. I mean, seriously, especially with this custom seat with the 1.5-inch memory foam on it. You just feel like you're floating on a cloud on this thing. These bikes were designed in the late 90s with Honda's motorcycle team in conjunction with their car team, which is kind of how they got this wild look. And originally they were designed and marketed for people that don't ride motorcycles, which is also why they kind of flopped back then. People who rode motorcycles didn't really want to buy them because they looked so weird, and people who didn't ride motorcycles also didn't want to buy them because they didn't ride motorcycles. So go figure, they didn't sell a lot and they weren't really loved in their time. But now, the people who have them, myself included, love them. We see the utility in them. It is like the perfect size motorcycle. It is easy to commute around town on. That was one of the original kind of design points. It was supposed to be a commuter bike that was meant so that you could put your briefcase and your suit in the back and ride it to work. So it's very easy to ride around town. Very low center of gravity. The weight is all down low. Even on the gas tank isn't really up here. It's down below the seat. So it's easy to maneuver around town. I ride it every morning to get coffee. I mount a cup holder right here to this ball mount and ride it through town to a coffee shop, get coffee, ride it back home with the coffee. It's a very practical motorcycle, and that's why the people who have them now really love them. Because one, they are mechanically bulletproof. These things require little to no maintenance, and you will see people who have them, 100,000 miles, 150,000 miles, 200,000 miles. These bikes will run forever if you do basic maintenance on them, change the oils, change the fluids, change the tires, stuff you would have to do to anything. The motor will just not fail on you. There is no way to kill these machines. The only way you can really kill them is to just not ride them and let them sit for 20 years. But this one gets ridden often, and it is so reliable. Every time I go to start it up, it starts up, it rides smooth. Yeah, I would not hesitate to jump on this bike right now, today, and drive it to the Grand Canyon, to drive it across the country. It is that smooth of a ride. It is that reliable of a ride. It's just a great bike overall. Hey, dude, what's up? And yeah, so let's talk about some of the features. First off, one of the first changes I made to this was I put 1.5-inch bar risers on it. It is a little bit on the sportier side as far as position if you're coming from a cruiser rider. So I raised the bars up 1.5 inches and then tilted them back a little bit. You'll see I had to drill out a bigger hole in order to get the key down because the key part doesn't come up. And I added a little cloth skirt around there so you couldn't see through to the forks. You can remove that if you want. I made this key longer so that you can stick it in there and turn it just fine, but I also have one of the original keys which is short. You can also use that. It also works fine, but I made a longer key for convenience. The choke is right here. If you need to use the choke on a cold start, you just pull it up, let the choke run for, 15 to 30 seconds. That's about all it ever needs. Yeah, besides that, let's see. I added the Kuryakin ISO grips. These are very comfortable, very easy to grip, good handle on the bike. I have a throttle lock, like a mechanical lever thing that goes over here. It's not on here right now, but it'll be included with the bike. Up here you can see it has the MCL plate, and this just replaces the reservoir cover. for your clutch fluid, so you can put these ram ball heads in here. There's one in here, this will come with the bike, but you can mount like a phone grip to this. Like I said, I have a cup holder that I mount to there. I get my coffee in this bike. Very practical. Down here, I'm not sure if you can see it, there is a little device that shows you the time. It's got a voltmeter on it, so it'll always show you what your battery's at, and it has the temperature on it. Hey man. Up here, this is where you can kind of see more of the car design influence. You have your speedometer, you have an odometer, which right now is reading about 40,472 miles, which is low for these bikes. And you have a trip meter that you can reset. Over there you have your tachometer, you got your blinker indicators, you got your engine heat indicator, and you have a fuel indicator, which I will say the fuel indicator shows it's empty while the bike still has probably 2 gallons left. So if you go by that, you're never going to run out of gas. But yeah, you can always go a little longer if you want to. The mirrors are great. They show you kind of underneath your handlebars. It's a good angle. They're at a good distance. This windshield is pretty awesome. Hey man, Goldwing Ranger. Windshield is pretty awesome. It has one of these like Goldwing style air vents. This is an aftermarket windshield. It's taller. It blocks all the wind. It's really nice. The wind is hitting me just at the top of my helmet, and I wear a very large full face helmet. So if you're not going to wear a helmet and you're wearing a hat, or you're not wearing a helmet, which I don't recommend, but if you do that, you will not get any wind. This will protect you. But if you need to open it up for some air in the summer months when it's warm, you can do that. Piece of cake. It does have a stereo built in. I'll go over that later when I show you kind of the trunk. But there is a Bluetooth stereo, so you can blast your music down the road if you want. There's a little glove box over here that you can open up. I'll go over that a little bit later too. But yeah, as a bike, this thing is comfortable. Like I said, I redid the seats. I added 1.5 inches of memory foam. I added highway pegs down here that you can stretch out on and just really feel comfortable, change up your position. I have the removable backrest. That's like, I wanted a backrest, but I don't want a backrest when I'm riding around town, so I got the Utopia Products one. I paid, $60 extra. It's just about $300 to get the backrest that you can pop in and out whenever you want to use it. It's fully adjustable forward and backwards and up and down. But this bike just cruises. Right now, we're only going 50 miles an hour. We're in 5th gear. We're at like 3,500 RPMs, and it is just humming. It is smooth. And I'm going to show you, this bike has good torque and power. If I do a roll-on, you can hear that engine start singing, and we are gaining speed. I mean, we're just climbing up. It doesn't feel like the engine is overworking. All right, we just broke 85, so I'm gonna slow down because that is well beyond the speed limit, and I do not intend to get a ticket, but it was climbing. I have personally had this bike over 100 miles an hour with more to go, and that was all the faster I needed to go to know that it could do it. But I love this thing on the interstate because it has all the weight and the weight's down low. You feel very confident riding. You can keep up with traffic. You can pass traffic. I often have been using it to go down to Indianapolis for work, which is about an hour and a half ride for me, and I load up all my video gear on the back and I ride it on the interstate. It is just fine. I've taken some, multi-hour trips with my wife on the back. It's very comfortable for 2-up riding. Has a backrest back there. It has these flip-down floorboard style pegs. The bike really, it rides great. And if you're into the 80s aesthetic design, this is definitely the bike to go for. The only other thing you could kind of do maybe is like a Goldwing, but that's too big to use as a commuter bike. You're not gonna hop on that and back it out of your garage and drive it to get coffee. It's just too heavy and big and cumbersome. But this bike is like the best of all worlds. It is nimble. I mean, it is seriously like, you can whip around on this thing. You can go really low in the corners. We'll hit a roundabout up here and I'll show you. So it's you feel very confident riding it in town. The brakes are good. Well, good enough for this bike. The agility is really good, and the power is there. I can leave it in 5th gear. I can slow down to, we can go down as slow as we want. Now we're cruising at 40 in 5th gear. Now we're cruising at 35 in 5th gear, and instead of shifting down, it's got enough power I can roll back on, and we'll speed right back up. It's got good torque kind of at all the RPMs on this bike, which is great. So I love riding it around town, and I have taken some long trips on it, and I love it. It is comfortable. And then when you add the backrest in and the highway pegs in, it is just more comfortable. And for this price point that I am selling it for, you're not going to find one, A, with this low of miles, B, where the person's not like, yeah, it's been sitting for 5 years, probably needs some work, which could mean literally anything. This bike, I just had a mechanic check it out. I always do that in the spring. So like a couple weeks ago, it's got new engine oil, it's got new radiator fluid, so all the fluids are fresh, and it'll go. Right? You're not going to win any races again. You don't try to race a sport bike. But it's definitely going to be faster than your car. I think the 0 to 60 for this bike is right around 6 seconds. So you have no problem merging into traffic, keeping up with traffic, passing traffic. And you know, I'm going to ride through a downtown area now with stoplights and roundabouts, and you'll see how nimble and easy. I feel fine riding this bike with no hands. Like, it just braking, coming to stops, it does it all. So what else we've covered? It's got the gauges, the speakers. I did the vinyl wrap on it, which is not perfect. You can look at the pictures, but from 5 feet away or more, you can't tell. So if you're buying a bike from the early 90s and thinking that's going to be in perfect condition, good luck. Those ones cost a lot of money. Again, you're not going to find a bike at this price point, especially not this model of bike that is in this good a mechanical condition, that looks as good as it does, and definitely that doesn't have the accessories. I mean, these handle grips were $100. That backrest was $300. The highway pegs, having a stereo in your bike. Most of these don't have stereos, and that stereo isn't linked to the battery in the bike, so you're never going to have any electrical issues with that. Another thing this bike does have is the self-canceling turn signals. So it's kind of like a car. If you turn the way your signal is going, and then as soon as you turn your wheel back the other way, it cancels it for you, which is kind of nice. That is not on all models of the PC800, but this model does have it. What else can I say other than it is just a pleasure to ride? Here's a roundabout up here. I'll try to show you if there's not too many cars. I don't want to do anything silly, but you can really dig into the corners. And it is just nimble. It is so fun to ride. And if you go on the Facebook group of the people who own these or any of the forums, they will tell you that this bike is fun in the twisties. It is fun on corners. It's fun in town. And because the weight is so low, I would feel confident putting a brand new rider on this, which is what it was designed for originally, people who didn't ride. But also, it is a completely competent bike. If you're a bigger guy or girl, or you're a smaller guy or girl, like I fully believe anybody could get on this bike and very quickly find their feeding on it, their footing, however that sentence should go, and feel very confident riding it around all kinds of riding environments. In traffic, on a long trip. Again, I would not hesitate to jump on this bike tomorrow and drive it to the Grand Canyon. There's no reason I couldn't. There's no reason I wouldn't, other than I have another bike. Yeah, it's great for two-up riding. It has adjustable suspension in the back. Right now it's set to the highest setting. I don't know what the correct terminology is, with the most compression, so that you can load it up with a passenger or people, and the suspension is made to handle that. There's like 4 different settings you can adjust with a wrench. What else? Actually, I'm gonna go straight here, because there's some fun twisties on this little road. And it's really pretty back here. It's smooth, like the clutch and the shifter are smooth. The throttle roll on is very smooth. And part of that is because the torque and power curve of this bike is very linear. So no matter what RPMs you're at, you're always going to get a very consistent power delivery to the bike. And there's some videos of guys doing like 0 to 60s and just some ride-alongs you can watch. But like this, just like going on these twisty turns on hills and corners, this bike nails it, honestly. And again, if you're into that 80s look, which is definitely coming back, this is the bike for you. I love going around corners with this thing. It gets low. I'm not even good at cornering. There's people who could probably get this thing down and drag knee if they wanted to. It is made for that kind of riding. And then, beyond all that, the biggest reason people love this bike, obviously, is the trunk. You can go grocery shopping and fit all your groceries in there. You can pack for a week-long trip just in the trunk. And then stuff is always protected. It's never going to get wet. You can leave, documents in there. You can leave your laptop in there. You could put a small dog in there if you wanted. I would not recommend doing that for the dog's sake, but you could do it. But yeah, that's about it. I'm going to show you a little bit of a walk around on the bike here in just a second, but enjoy these beautiful clips of what the bike looks like and get inspired. Bike is sweet, and it's got like all the cool 80s vintage goodness. So that's how it runs. Let me show you the trunk really quick, and I'll show you the Bluetooth stereo back there. So to get in the trunk, you come over here. This is where your gas can is. There's a little lever there, literally like a car trunk. You pull it, back opens up. So this is the backrest. Now you can take this, and over here there's just this little flap. And this just slides into place. Now you have a backrest. You can fold it down so you can kick your leg over it, fold it back up. It's got this big pouch. You can adjust everything on this. You can adjust how far forward it's leaned, how tall it is, how far back it leans. This was like $300, and I literally just put it on a couple weeks ago. You're not going to find another bike with one of these anywhere near this cheap. You're not going to find a bike with a stereo anywhere near this cheap. You're not going to find a bike with highway pegs for this cheap. You're not going to find a bike with these nice ISO grips. And actually, I also have a throttle lock that fits right in between there that I will include too. So it's not cruise control, but it kind of does the same thing. So this is the jam box back here. So I mounted it up on the side. I hope you can see that. And basically, you just come over here and there's a power button. Hold it down for a second. It turns on. Let me turn some music on so you kind of hear what it sounds like. I'm going to get my phone here. Blah, 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 blah. What should we listen to? You can hear how loud it is here. I'm going to turn on some Bryan Adams. So your phone connects to the Bluetooth once the song starts playing. It's loud. I mean, you can hear how loud I'm talking, and yeah. It's pretty sweet, actually. And so it's Bluetooth. So it just uses your phone, you get your GPS through there, and since it's on its own battery thing, it push play in my pocket. It's never going to drain the battery in the bike. And then all you can do is, once a week or once every week, just plug this in and let it charge overnight. It's super simple. There's a ton of storage space back here. Like, that's my hand. It goes down deep. You can fit a full-size helmet in each side of this. There is also a battery tender line in here. And then up in this cubby, I have a 12-volt car charger that right now is wired with an iPhone cable. That iPhone cable comes out right over here. So if you have like a car mount here, for your phone. You can have your phone charging while you ride. Yeah, what else? Oh, there are front covers for the front fender. They're like, casings. You'll see a picture of that right now. I have those off. I honestly think it looks a little sportier and more relevant without them. This is how they kind of had the models looking later in the 90s. But I can put those back on. These are the size of the passenger pegs. Again, those are like mini floorboards, if those are showing up. So yeah, very comfortable ride for a passenger. This back seat is juicy. I mean, it's juicy. They got hand grips back here, juicy backrest. There is no reason you couldn't get on this bike today and ride it to California or ride it to the Grand Canyon or do whatever you want with it. Oh yeah, one other cool thing. This was added when I bought the bike, but there are also these locking things back here to hang your helmets on. So you can strap your helmet on right there, lock it up. You can't get this thing off. It has tamper-proof locks on it. So you can hang 2 more helmets back here. Just another accessory. Again, you can probably find another Pacific Coast, maybe even one for like the same price or $100 cheaper. But 1, it's definitely going to have more miles on it. 2, it'll probably be in worse cosmetic condition. And 3, it's not going to have these accessories. I mean, that's like $100 for the grips, $300 for the seat. To get a stereo installed that works like that is a couple $100. Plus, I personally think the matte metallic black looks sweet. Again, it's not perfect. If you get up close, you can see some air bubbles, and part of that is because the paint on this bike was old and some of it was chipping off, so it doesn't all stick. But this will work well, and I'm going to include the extra vinyl I had. So if you ever want to rewrap a part, you can just take off that one piece of plastic and rewrap it. Or this would be a great bike if you want to like try a custom paint job or try a custom spray paint job. Do it on this bike. But as you'll see in the video clips, when it's just riding down the street, it looks like a sweet 80s machine. And if that's your vibe, this is definitely the bike for you. Mechanically, it runs in great condition. I just had the mechanic give it a one-over a couple weeks ago, changed the oil, changed the coolant. This bike is good to ride. It is consistent and reliable. So if you have any questions or you are interested, feel free to send me a message and hit me up. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Come buy it, take it home. It's a great bike. All right, peace out.